Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and I am your host. And friends, last week was long, like really long. But as usual, I had great books by my side and readily available. So I can honestly say I just tried to dissociate a lot last week. But I did get sucked into the discourse online. And of course, as things do, it spilled over into the book world, book talk and bookstagram. I saw so much vitriol over who posted what, people taking books off of their shelves, putting authors on lists. And I kept thinking, do these folks actually read the books that they post about? Do they understand them? Is everyone reading nothing but fluff? I mean, these are questions. Now, before you go on and on, and let me say, I don't really care if you read nothing but dark fairy smut every day of the year. But I personally believe in diversity in reading, at least every once in a while, once a year. I mean, something. I love fairy smut. I am the first one who picks up a mindless romance to break up real life. But I will also read books that make me think, like books with characters who are nothing like me, books with ideas that are not mine, books that make me, uncomfortable, and books that teach me something new. I know a lot of us right now read for escapism because of, frankly, the world we live in. But one of my goals with this podcast is to expose my listeners to new books that, aren't on your radar, while mixing in popular and cultural books that everyone is talking about, though that is my main goal. So today, I want to share with you 5 books that I think you should be reading right now. These books might spark ideas or understanding or interest. I'm not asking you to agree with these books. I'm asking you to be open-minded to learning about another point of view, let's say. It's a book. So let's get started. The first book that I want you to consider reading instead of doomscrolling is The Dream Hotel by Laila Lalami. Let's talk about this book. Upon returning to LAX, Sara is detained by the Risk Assessment Administration, the RAA, because an algorithm analyzing her dreams predicts she will harm her husband. She is taken to a retention center with other women, all trying to prove their innocence. As her stay is repeatedly extended due to shifting rules, a new resident arrives and challenges the facility's order, leading Sara to confront the corporations that control her fate. This novel explores how, technology can both simplify our lives and enslave us. It questions the amount of privacy we must sacrifice for freedom and whether surveillance can truly capture our essence, which, let's face it, is very, very, very timely. The next book on my list that I want you to consider reading is called Separation of Church and Hate by John Fugelsang. I hope I said that right. For over 200 years, the U.S. Constitution has upheld the separation of church and state. However, far-right groups and politicians have co-opted Christianity to justify some pretty oppressive policies. The book offers a look at fundamentalist arguments on topics like abortion and LGBTQ rights, using scripture, common sense, and humor to get its point across. The author also provides practical tips for debating these issues with others, all while advocating for the core Christian values of love and compassion that Christianity stands for. I saw a lot of, I don't want to say religious, but I'll say Christian friends talk about this book, and I was intrigued. I have downloaded the audio version of this and will start it soon because I think it's a book that I need to read. The next book that I want you to consider reading is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I think I bought this one to the pod before. Gay Montag is a fireman. His job is to destroy the most illegal of commodities, the printed book, along with the houses in which they are hidden. Montauk never questions the destruction and ruin that his actions produce, returning each day to his bland life and wife, Mildred, who spends all day with her television family. But when he meets an eccentric young neighbor, Clarice, who introduces him to a past where people didn't live in fear and to a present where one sees the world through the ideas of books instead of the mindless chatter of television, Montauk begins to question everything he has ever known. This dystopian novel was written in 1953. And in light of the current book banning craze, I'm going to call it, is this book really that far from reality? That's why I think you should read it. The third book on our list is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Yes, I am always going to recommend this book. And if you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for, friend? What are you waiting for? Really? Let's get into the premise. 15-year-old Lauren Alamina lives inside a gated community with her preacher father, family, and neighbors, sheltered from surrounding social chaos and anarchy caused by climate change and economic crisis. In a society where any vulnerability is a risk, she suffers from hyperempathy, a debilitating sensitivity to others' emotions. Precocious and clear-eyed, Lauren must make her voice heard in order to protect her loved ones from the imminent disasters her small community stubbornly ignores. But what begins as a fight for survival soon leads to something much more: the birth of a new faith and a startling vision of human destiny. Now, why read this book now? Not only is it incredibly timely in terms of how it almost perfectly mirrors current politics, society, and environmental events, but the story starts on July 20th, 2024. It is a must read. I really just need to do a book club on this book. Like, seriously, I'm planning it. Stay tuned. The last book, I think this is the last book. The last book I want you to consider reading is Chain Gang Allstars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. Loretta Thurward and Hamara Hurricane Stacker are the stars of the Chain Gang All-Stars, a for-profit reality show run by America's private prison industry. In this popular yet controversial program, prisoners compete in televised death matches for the ultimate prize, their freedom. Teammates and lovers, Loretta and Hamara are fan favorites. Loretta is only a few matches away from her freedom, but she's determined to protect the humanity of her fellow inmates, even as the show's corporate owners lay out devastating obstacles to stop her. This novel examines the American prison system's connections to systemic racism and capitalism. Yes, that is the end of my list. So I hope that I gave you something to read or something to add to your TBR or just something to think about. And if I did, then my work here is done. All right, let's move to the fun part of the podcast where I get into my current reads. I just finished reading or listening to The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. Let's talk about what this book is about. July 1962, following in the tradition of indigenous workers from Nova Scotia, a Native American family arrives in Maine to pick blueberries for the summer. Weeks later, 4-year-old Ruthie, the family's youngest child, vanishes. She is last seen by her 6-year-old brother Joe sitting on a favorite rock at the edge of a berry field. Joe will remain distraught by his sister's disappearance for years, decades to come. In Maine, a young girl named Norma grows up as the only child of an affluent family. Her father is emotionally distant, her mother frustratingly overprotective. Norma is often troubled by recurring dreams and visions that seem more like memories than her imagination. As she grows older, Norma slowly comes to realize that there is something her parents aren't telling her. Unwilling to abandon her intuition, she will spend decades trying to uncover this family secret. My thoughts on this book was it was beautifully tragic. If you read the book description from the publisher, which basically I just read, you basically understand the twist the plot twist, I guess you can say, but not really because anyway, knowing that colors how you look at the story and the way the author tells a story from the perspective of our two main characters, Ruthie and Joe, is beautifully and tragic all at once. And even though I knew what was happening and the how of it, like the plot twist really shocked me. Like, wow, I really love this and I'm glad that I found it. Again, I listened to it and it was like a dual narration. Really, really good. And I highly recommend. I'm currently still reading what I was reading last week. Catabasis by R. Kwan, the quote unquote most anticipated book of the year. It is really slow going for me. I'm really still early with it. And so I'm still trying to give it a chance because I just haven't had a chance to sit down and really get into it. But it was going so slow for me that I got distracted yesterday by Our Vicious Oaths by N.E. Davenport. Let's talk about what this one is about. Princess Khadijah, a warrior, is destined to marry the Hyperion High King. Seeking one last night of freedom, she sleeps with a stranger, Malachi, who, unknown to her, is the actual new king of a rival court. On Khadijah's wedding day, Malachi attacks, killing her father and taking her hostage. But she and Malachi form an alliance. She will lure the High King to his death, and he will spare her people. Despite their shared mission, they must fight an unbreakable attraction that threatens their plans. Sounds good, right? Right. I have been consciously looking for romanticy books from Black authors, and I'm so glad that I found this one. I am very intrigued by this one, and my plan is to finish it up this week. It is taking me a little bit because I'm being a little bit more meticulous in the details than I usually am. So I'm taking like copious notes for my own purposes. And yeah, I'll explain more about that later. But it's taking me a little bit because I am almost doing like a book report on it. So we'll see. But this book doesn't release until October 28th. So I'm a little early telling you about it, but I will give you my full review closer to the release date. Like I said, I'm taking a lot of notes, and it's kind of necessary if I'm being honest. So it's a little yeah. Anyway, next up on my TBR is The Jasad Crown by Sara Hashem. This is the second book in the Scorched Throne duology. If you recall, I read the first book earlier this summer. So I will try to give a non-spoiler overview of this book as possible. So let's see if I can do that. In a mountain refuge, Sylvia must gain the trust of her captors, the Yorubi, who believe her magic can restore their homeland. She struggles to hide the dangerous mental side effects of her powers while she is being held captive. Meanwhile, Aaron, a prince from a rival kingdom, searches for Sylvia, caught between his father's orders and his own sacred vows. His quest reveals secrets that challenge everything he believes in about his family and Jasad's downfall. As war looms, Sylvia must risk her humanity to win and save her people. It took forever for this book to come from the library, and it was finally ready for the library late last week. I am only allowed, though, to start this one if I finish one of the books that I am currently physically reading. Not one of the books that I'm listening to. Okay, friends, that is all I have today. This is really a short episode because really, this is all I have to say today. So if you enjoyed listening, I would love if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us grow and find other bookish friends to join us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can always email me at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com. And you can connect with me on Pouring Over Books Pod on Instagram and on YouTube at LaShawn Wilts. Or there's so many ways to reach me. My personal IG and TikTok, LaShawn Wilts. Thank you again for listening. And I will talk to you later, friends. Protect your peace. Bye-bye.